In the heat of the competition, amid the roaring waves, two teenagers faced off with unarmed fists and feet. One of them, robust despite his bulk, demonstrated surprising stability, each punch and kick radiating power. This was Wang Dafeng, the former friend of Han Li. Though his appearance might deceive, his skills were anything but weak. With each strike, his fist thundered with majesty and strength. The other, of shorter stature, moved with feline agility, skillfully dodging Wang Dafeng's attacks. It seemed as though he sought to exhaust the opponent's strength before counterattacking. As he watched his friend compete, Han Li approached the court, naturally immersing himself in the intense atmosphere of martial arts. Despite his lack of knowledge on the subject, he recognized Wang Dafeng's skill and relaxed as he watched his performance. Curious about the cause of the competition, Han Li sought someone to clarify his doubts. He spotted a teenager near a tree, gesturing animatedly while following the bout with enthusiastic instructions. Deciding to approach him, Han Li descended from the tree and drew near. "Excuse me, you seem to know everyone here on the court. Could you explain what's happening?" Han Li asked with genuine interest. The teenager, surprised not to recognize Han Li, promptly responded, his senses sharp. After a brief exchange, Han Li revealed himself to be a friend of Wang Dafeng, piquing the young man's curiosity. "A friend of Wang Dafeng? I know all his friends, and you're not familiar to me," the teenager stated cautiously. Han Li explained his prolonged absence, and the teenager seemed to accept his words. He then shared details about the origin of the competition, revealing a complex plot involving betrayal and discord. The rivalry between Wang Dafeng and Zhang Changgui, caused by a failed romance, resulted in the current competition. Determined to restore his honor, Wang Dafeng challenged Zhang Changgui to a duel. However, the latter, recognizing Wang Dafeng's superior martial skill, chose to involve other members of his faction, turning the dispute into a collective confrontation. The competition drew a crowd of spectators, divided between supporters of both sides. Han Li noticed the tension between the wealthy disciples and those from more modest backgrounds, reflected in the rivalry between Wang Dafeng and Zhang Changgui. "If you're supporting Wang Dafeng, let's band together and ensure they respect the rules," suggested the teenager, urging Han Li to join the cause. However, Han Li felt no inclination to get involved in the dispute. His spiritual journey had distanced him from worldly trivialities, and he lacked martial skills to compete. As they watched the competition unfold, one of the competitors collapsed after receiving a blow from Wang Dafeng. The crowd's reaction was mixed, with some celebrating the victory while others expressed discontent. The competition continued, this time involving weapons. Two other competitors, wielding a knife and a sword, advanced to the center of the court, ready for the confrontation. Han Li carefully observed the scene unfolding before his eyes, his gaze tracing the dance of swords as if he were trying to decipher a hidden narrative within the movements. The two figures, enveloped in a play of light and shadow, seemed to be part of an ancient ritual, where each strike was a manifestation of the skill and determination of its wielders. Try as he might, Han Li couldn't clearly discern who the combatants were, but he could feel the intensity of the battle, the passion contained in every movement. It was as if he were witnessing a divine dance, performed by martial artists at their peak. As he watched, a voice brought him back to reality. It was the young Abacus, who finally couldn't contain his curiosity any longer and directed a question to Han Li about his newly acquired skills after the retreat. Han Li knew that as a disciple of the seven profound sects, it was part of the natural progression to move from basic training to learning more advanced skills. However, he also recognized that the ranking system within the sect was complex and full of nuances. He explained to young Abacus about his own training and how he was taken as a disciple by a prominent figure in the sect but avoided mentioning the master's name, choosing to maintain an aura of mystery around their identity. Young Abacus, impressed by Han Li's fortune, expressed his hope that in the future, Han Li could support him as well. However, he couldn't help but mutter to himself about how someone as intelligent as Han Li could submit to a master whose identity remained unknown. Han Li noticed the subtle shift in young Abacus's attitude and smiled to himself. He knew that while his words were flattering, the truth behind them was uncertain. His position within the sect might not be as high as young Abacus imagined. As the conversation continued, Hanli and young Abacus continued to watch the duel between the swordsmen. Hanli noticed young Abacus's growing interest, his meticulous attention to the details of each combatant's movements. Finally, the battle reached its climax, with one of the swordsmen suffering a severe injury. Hanli and young Abacus watched with sorrow as the winner was declared. However, young Abacus soon perked up at the mention of the next and final match of the competition. He exuded confidence in his comrade, a certain Brotherly, whose martial skills seemed to be highly esteemed by his peers. Hanli listened attentively, intrigued by the unknown figure who aroused such enthusiasm among the other disciples. When this Brotherly stepped onto the field, Hanli watched him with curiosity, trying to unravel the mystery behind his reputation. The crowd erupted in cheers of support for Brotherly, each voice merging into a unified chorus of excitement. Hanli watched the scene with fascination, unable to distinguish between rich and poor disciples, as they were all united in their adoration for the young swordsman. And so, the stage was set for the final act of this thrilling competition, where the fate of each combatant would be decided under the watchful eyes of the eager crowd. Hanli was intrigued by Senior Li's fame. It was evident that this Brotherly was a notable figure in the 7 profound sects, but Hanli, immersed in a several-year retreat, was oblivious to it. "You've never heard of Brotherly? I've been away for so long." "Ah, true. My apologies, my memory fails me. It seems everyone in the profound sect knows Brotherly, but forgets about your retreat," the small Abacus replied hastily, trying to keep up with Hanli. "Could you tell me about him?" Hanli asked, curious. "Of course, Brother Han. You know of Brother Li's exploits. We young disciples have heard plenty about him," the small Abacus said, realizing that Zhang Changgue hadn't defeated Li's opponent and decided to share the legends about the senior. Hanli listened attentively to the stories about Brother Li, each one laden with a legendary air. Brother Li had been on the mountain for 4 years, not as the same unremarkable candidate when Hanli arrived. Despite his humble origins and seemingly limited potential, he astonished everyone, clinching the top spot in all trials half a year later. His exceptional performance caught the attention of the more seasoned masters, although his skills were deemed only average. While his initial prospects were unimpressive, Brother Li shone in the following year's junior disciples competition, reaching the top 16, standing out among newcomers. In subsequent competitions, he continued to excel, even securing 3rd place the previous year, surpassing disciples with much more experience. These accomplishments earned Brother Li the opportunity to undertake important missions outside the mountain. While other newcomers practiced at the gate, he had already gained the respect of the Qishuan sect, being nicknamed the Little Tiger in the arena. Hanli was impressed by this named disciple's determination and skill. As he listened, Hanli felt a mix of admiration and questioning. How had someone with such a modest starting position achieved such success? It was something to ponder. Meanwhile, the competition in the field continued. A disciple of the 5th elder, Zhao Xiling, faced Brother Li in a sword confrontation. Although skilled, Zhao Xiling seemed to be at a disadvantage, unable to match Brother Li's relentless determination and skill. Hanli watched closely, his curiosity now mingled with growing suspicion. Why were there no senior brothers present to witness the competition? It was a notable absence that raised questions about the dynamics within the sect. When Hanli raised this question, the small Abacus reacted strangely, leaving Hanli even more intrigued. What exactly had he touched upon by questioning the absence of the senior brothers? Hanli, a young disciple of Kixuanmin, was puzzled. Why had his master never mentioned such an important matter? Restless, he handed a card to the small Abacus beside him, hoping to uncover the truth. The small Abacus, seeing Hanli's sincerity, agreed to reveal the information. In recent years, the conflict between Kixuanmin and the Wild Wolves gang had escalated, resulting in numerous battles and significant losses on both sides. While the disciples of Kixuanmin possessed superior martial skills, they were not as ruthless as the members of the Wolf gang. Casualties mounted, prompting the 7 profound sects to send internal disciples to confront the Wolf Gang, seeking real combat experience. This strategy reduced losses but also revealed a shift in the sect's policy. Now, all disciples were to descend the mountain to gain experience before assuming real responsibilities. Han Li realized the significance of this decision and felt the weight on his shoulders. Meanwhile, in a training scene, Zhao Xiling, one of the disciples, faced a challenge. Under the admiring eyes of others, he skillfully confronted his opponent, showcasing his combat prowess. However, his victory did not come without costs, and he walked away from the battle with injuries. Han Li observed the scene, impressed by Zhao Xiling's skill but also concerned about the overall situation. He noticed how some disciples seemed eager for approval, while others appeared more concerned about the responsibilities that awaited them. After the confrontation, Han Li befriended Jin Dongbao, the small abacus, promising to help him in times of need. As Han Li walked away into the pine forest, leaving behind the murmurs of other disciples, Jin Dongbao was perplexed by his words, trying to understand their meaning. Now immersed in his own thoughts, Han Li pondered the future of the sect and the role he would play in this evolving scenario. As he walked through the forest, he knew the path ahead would be challenging, but he was determined to face any obstacle that came his way. Han Li had been walking for hours, leaving behind the cliff where the remnants of the dispute between Wang Depang and Zhang Changgui still echoed. By this point, he cared little about how that conflict had been resolved. A sense of lightness washed over Han Li as he recalled Jin Dongbao standing there, bewildered. His mood seemed to have considerably relaxed, dissipating any trace of depression that had previously afflicted him. Emerging from the dense pine forest, he found himself in a more remote area where a small stream snaked towards him. Under the scorching sun, Han Li gazed at the crystal-clear water of the stream, thinking it might be a good idea to refresh himself in its flow. As he leaned in to dip his hands into the cold stream, a groan of pain broke the silence. Surprised to find someone in such an isolated place, Han Li followed the sound to where the stream originated. There he found a disciple dressed in characteristic attire, lying by the stream's edge, writhing in pain, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. Han Li immediately realized that the disciple was suffering from an acute illness and that without immediate help, he was at serious risk of death. Acting swiftly, Han Li retrieved a sandalwood box from his belongings and extracted silver needles from it, which he carefully applied to the man's acupuncture points. Skillfully, he finished needling the points on the disciple's back and prepared to do the same on his chest. Turning the man's body, his face came into view. Han Li held his breath. It was the same individual who had recently displayed his power on the cliff, Brother Li. For a moment, Han Li stood dumbfounded, closely observing the face of the man now writhing in agony. There was no longer the courage and invincibility he had previously shown. His face was twisted in pain, his expression distorted. Shaking off the surprise, Han Li focused on the task of rendering aid. With skill, he applied the silver needles throughout the man's body until he finally regained consciousness. "Who?" Brother Li tried to say, but he lacked the strength to complete the sentence. "I'm from the Valley of the God Hand." "You don't need to speak. First, regain your strength. Your condition is serious, and only Dr. Mo could save you." "Unfortunately, he's not on the mountain right now," Han Li said, concerned. "The medicine ran out," Brother Li murmured, with visible anguish. Understanding what he meant, Han Li rummaged through his belongings and found a small bottle of white jade, carefully sealed. It was what he was looking for. Upon opening the bottle, a foul odor spread through the air. Han Li retrieved a pink pill, its appearance contrasting with its unpleasant aroma. "Is this the pill?" Han Li asked, remaining calm. Brother Li, unable to speak, merely blinked in response. These pills, made from rare ingredients like helan, heliconia, and centennial blue ant eggs, are extremely dangerous. Although they temporarily enhance your abilities, continuous use can be fatal. "Did you know that?" Han Li asked, seriously. Brother Li's face paled upon hearing Han Li's words. "You've been taking this medicine for years. If you stop now, I can ask Dr. Mo to prepare another medicine for you," which will prolong your life for a few more decades, although your martial abilities may suffer. If you continue, you may only have a few more years of life, but your abilities will increase rapidly. The decision is yours, Han Li concluded, leaving the choice in Brother Li's hands.